Alright, guys, hopefully you guys can hear me. Sometimes, if my camera is too far away, it makes my voice sound kind of echoey and muffled. So, yeah, but hopefully you guys can hear me fine and clearly. Now, today is Sunday. Now, this Sunday has actually been pretty decent. However, I still want to do a video. And this is going to be a video that I've kind of had planned for a long time. But I'm finally getting around to doing it. And it's basically gonna talk about what my ideal future, at least for myself, and I might also mention some of my friends' ideal future as well. But yeah, like I said, this is something that I've had planned for years, but I finally have the motivation and the inspiration to do it. I don't know if I'm going to talk about the future as a whole, because that is a bit of a stretch, but I'll definitely talk a little bit about my own hopes for the future, for my own future, and I may also talk about the ideal future that some of my friends have. But yeah. Now, and one of the aspects will be careers and dream jobs, but there are also going to be other aspects, such as living situations and just other stuff. But first and foremost, I do want to talk about my dream job. Now, as a lot of you know, if you guys have watched my videos over the past few years, but my dream job is to be an author. And I specifically want to focus on writing books about topics that pertain to me, but that a lot of people overlook. I want to start off with a memoir. That's going to be my debut book. I've changed my mind a couple of times about what I want my first book to be about, but I eventually decided that a memoir would probably be my best bet. That way, my readers can get to know me, and I can pass it over to my parents once I build a reputation for it. Because as much as I do love my parents, I don't think they quite understand me at times. I feel like they kind of downplay what it's like to have neurofibromatosis and probably autism and ADHD. I've never been diagnosed with autism and ADHD. However, doctors have hinted about me having the former, autism. According to my mom, I was diagnosed to be on the spectrum. However, that doesn't necessarily mean autism specifically. That can appeal to just a broader range of diagnoses, including autism. And then I had a doctor's appointment this past March where I wasn't diagnosed with autism specifically, but she did confirm that a condition that I was diagnosed with when I was only like 1 year old, neurofibromatosis, she did confirm that it can be a risk factor for autism. ADHD was never brought up during that doctor's appointment. However, I have looked into it because I do like to look into my conditions because I want to seek validation and I want to know more about them. And I did hear that neurofibromatosis type 1, that's the type I have. I don't know if I specified. It can also go hand in hand too, or hand in hand with ADHD as well, and of course autism. My friend Ethan, Purple Ethan, he also has all three conditions. He has, NF1, autism, and ADHD. So that's just further proof that I could very well have all three as well, because I have symptoms from not just NF1, but also autism and ADHD. Sorry, I'm kind of cleaning off my table a little bit. It gets dusty really easily, but yeah. I don't know if he's active anymore, but I had another friend on here. He went by Benjamin Goodman. That's not his real name. It's a character from Super Mario Logan, but he also told me that he also has neurofibromatosis, and he never explicitly stated about having autism or ADHD, but judging by some of his symptoms and tendencies, I definitely feel like he could have either one or the other, or even both. So, yeah, but back to my memoir discussion. My main purpose with this book is to, number one, introduce to myself to my authors, not authors, but my readers. It'll be a good introductory book so they can get to know me. Plus, I can eventually pass it over to my parents when I'm ready. And possibly my other family members, such as my brother or my grandma on my dad's side. That way they too can get a better understanding of me. Because I don't plan to mention them in my book. I know some authors, sometimes some of them may kind of talk about their family members in a negative light in their books. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to cause damage between my family and I. Plus, a lot of readers may find it unprofessional and off-putting. So instead, I'm just going to focus on just society as a whole. Because I have been a victim of ignorance and insensitivity, not just from my own family, but just from other people who don't know me or just don't take the time to understand what it's like to live with these conditions. previously I had planned for my autism book to be my debut book, but I decided to release it as a later subsequent release because first of all, I'm not even 100% sure that I do have autism. I rather focus on a condition that I do actually have. However, I will talk about autism and ADHD in my books because I do relate to them. But I will be acknowledging that I'm not diagnosed with them and that I only suspect that I have them. Because I don't want my family members or my readers to get any wrong ideas. I don't want them to think I have them or to think I've been officially diagnosed with them when I have not. So what I'll do is I'll talk about the ways I do relate to them while still mentioning how I am not officially diagnosed and not 100% sure that I do have them. But yeah, and other books I want to write about are, of course, autism and ADHD, mental health, maybe even the school system. I even would love to write a book about dream jobs, like helping people to find what job suits them best, and if they can't, they can look at alternatives that kind of fall under the same umbrella as their initial dream job. For example, my friend Ethan, again, Purple Ethan, he wanted to be a fighter pilot for a while, but he has ran into some issues because, you have to be in top physical condition to be a fighter pilot. My dad has talked about it with me before, but you have to have pretty much perfect vision. I don't even know if you can have neurofibromatosis. He has some conditions and other factors that could disqualify him from being a fighter pilot. He saw the movie Top Gun Maverick. I forgot what year. Oh yeah, I think it was 2022. And it inspired him to want to be one, and it got him fixated on aviation. However, he can still look for a job under the aviation umbrella. He could be a flight attendant. He could work at an aviation museum. He could be an air traffic controller, I think he said it was called. So if he's not able to be a fighter pilot or a pilot in general, he can still look at other jobs under the aviation umbrella. But yeah, my main goal with these books is to just foster a better understanding with people. I want them to be more kind and considerate when it comes to things like mental health and neurodiversity. Because my neurodiversity related books they're gonna be top priorities. Because I know what it's like to, I don't know if I would say bullied. That's kind of a strong word, but I do know what it's like to be disregarded and even criticized just for being neurodivergent. Or if people aren't aware of your neurodivergence, so they kind of just criticize you without realizing that you could behave in a different way because of your neurodivergence. And that's something a lot of people just don't understand. You know, a lot of neurodivergent people are not always gonna act like the average person. We're always gonna have struggles and stuff to overcome with our neurodivergence. And one of the main examples of this is how people on the autism spectrum, they tend to act younger than their age, which they get criticized for. Now, I understand that childish behavior can be bad in some ways, but it doesn't always have to be bad, in my opinion. Being a child at heart does not necessarily make you immature. And that's something that a lot of neurotypical people just don't understand. So yeah, I've thought about this since 2021. I've had dream jobs over the years, or like multiple dream jobs over the years, but this is probably my longest standing one and the one that I probably will end up doing. I'm also gonna create an account on Instagram for a couple of reasons. And number one, it'll be to help promote my books. I can build up an audience using Instagram, and then I can promote my books on there, because that will help me get sales. And number two, I know that not sorry. I discovered a freaking YouTube feature a couple of days ago, and I cannot stop laughing about it. But yeah, number two is so I can provide, I guess you can say, motivational and educational content, because I know not everyone is in the financial position to be buying books. I can use it as a quicker and easier and free way to educate my potential followers on Instagram. With that being said, I'm still unsure of when I will create the account, because I do want to time it up properly. Because if I do it too soon, I feel like I will be leaving my followers hanging, and they're probably gonna lose faith in me because of how long it takes for me to get a book out. And I'm still working on outlines and brainstorming what to include in my books. Plus, it might still be a while before I get my bank account. So I want to get closer to publishing my books. That way I don't leave my audiences hanging. But I also want to do it far enough in advance to where I can spend some time on building a proper audience before I release my first book. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what a good time would be, because I don't want to do it too soon, but I also don't want to do it too close to my debut book's release. And then my next point I will mention is my programs. Now, this is something I've been talking about for years, but it has never really panned out because we've had other hurdles in the way. But back in March, I finally did get on the waiting list for a program. I'm not going to mention the name of it due to privacy reasons, but I did get on the waiting list for a program that I will start attending either later this year or sometime next year. You see, the program can only have, they said 12 participants at a time, and there are 2 people ahead of me on the waiting list, so, but people will come and go. Like when someone leaves, then another person can get in the program. So I have to wait for a few people to leave until I can get in. But I'm really looking forward to it because I do follow their Facebook page, because they will occasionally post stuff they did, and I like looking over it because it gives me an idea of what I will be doing here in the near future. And I'm really looking forward to it because ever since I graduated 10 years ago, I've just been lacking structure in my life. And I want to go out and regain that structure. And I want to interact with people in my age group and who may have some of the same struggles as I do. And I can make some local friends in this town. Now, I don't know how long I will be going to the program. It may not be for the rest of my life. However, I do want it to be a long-term vein, at least until I'm ready to move on to like other stuff. My dad did say that I could get a part-time job sometime in the future, and I wouldn't mind that. I know a lot of people, especially neurodivergent people, I think they're scared of getting jobs, and I get it, because a lot of employers don't really care to accommodate to people on the spectrum, and they may be scared of criticism, because that's another thing with neurodivergent people. We are scared of criticism and we're very sensitive to it. So we try to avoid that as much as we can. And for some people, they may be scared of their boss criticizing them, so they may be scared to get a job or even downright refuse to get one. And yeah, I am skeptical of that myself, but I'm actually kind of open to getting a job later in the future because it'll give me more income. Because according to my friend Dale, he's also on Social Security. So, but he said that he was able to get he is able to get a part-time job. I don't know if he's working, but he did confirm that he is able to. He just has certain limitations. I don't know if these limitations apply to how many hours per week you can work or your work income, but yeah. According to him, you can still have a part-time job when you're on Social Security, just not a full-time one. And the thing is, I probably wouldn't want a full-time job anyway. I did hear that a lot of neurodivergent people struggle to work a full-time job, and a part-time job is more suitable for them. So that's better for part-time jobs are better for people like them anyway. Yeah, they can't earn as much money, but it does allow for a more flexible work schedule. And that way I'll have Social Security, I'll have a possible part-time job in the future, and I'll have the money coming in from my books. And yeah, it'll just be a little bit, but all three methods as a whole could give me decent income. Because this will lead to my next point, but I do want to eventually get my own place in the future. Sorry, there's gunk on my table that's distracting me. And hold on, I do have to blow my nose. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. All right. Sorry about that. Because the thing is, when I'm first starting out on my books, I don't expect to make a lot of money. I mean, as time goes on, I grow an audience and I publish more and more books. You know, I'll have more and more books published. Then I do expect for the income from my books to grow over time, but when I'm first starting out, I do expect sales to be few and far in between. You know, I know a lot of people want recognition right away, and I get it, especially for something like this. You want to feel seen and you want people to read and support your work, but it's just not always realistic. And that's something I have to keep telling both my dad and Purple Ethan. Because my dad, I don't know if I would use the word expect, but he's obsessed with the idea of me winning a Pulitzer Prize with my book. And I kind of get it. You want what's best for your children. You want them to succeed as much as possible. I am definitely not opposed to winning a Pulitzer Prize with my books, but he also needs to understand that there are a lot of really, what's the word? Prophylactic? I don't know, but there are a lot of successful authors who have never won a Pulitzer Prize and probably never will. And that's something my dad needs to understand. It's not something you can just plan on. It's kind of luck based. And the reason he is obsessed with that is because his favorite celebrity, I want to say his favorite celebrity, but one of his favorite artists won a Pulitzer Prize. Kendrick Lamar, his album Damn, it won a Pulitzer Prize. So I think my dad's mindset is, if he can do it, you can do it as well. And like, the reason itself does sound pretty good, but at the same time, he also needs to look on the other side of the coin. A lot of successful authors never win one. And then Purple Ethan, he also one of his other dream jobs that he wants to work on is being a streamer. And he wants to be a Twitch streamer, but right now he's just first starting out. And he hasn't even really been streaming very much. But I think he has done a couple of them. And then he'll come to Discord and he'll vent about not getting a lot of viewers. So me, Ashton, and Eli have to explain to him about how it takes time to build up an audience. Especially if you're not really posting very much. Because if you don't post very much, you know, the algorithm is not gonna really support you promote your work. I don't know, but this is the case on a lot of content-based websites. You do have to post regularly or you will end up getting shadow banned. But if you stick with it, the algorithm may notice that and you might get promoted to more and more people, which that's not even something I've told Ethan yet. I haven't really explained how social media algorithm works, but yeah. And then I would know because I'm on DeviantArt. Now, I'm not using that site for professional reasons. I just use it for fun. But I do go long periods without posting stuff. One of the reasons is because I just don't really have many ideas. And another reason is just because a lot of people on there have just been ticking me off. So yeah, I do plan to post there regularly when Chibimation comes out, because I want to post bios and references for my OCs. But for now, I'm kind of on, I'll say a semi-hiatus, because occasionally I may still post stuff and use it to commission other artists, but I'm not really posting regularly for the time being. But as a result is I don't get a lot of traction for my content, and I think the same thing could be applied to Purple Ethan's Twitch. Now, if you're wondering why I call Ethan by his favorite color is because I have two friends named Ethan. One of them, his favorite color is purple, and the other, his favorite is green. So that's why I call them by their favorite colors, to avoid confusion and to let you guys know which one is which. But yeah, like I said, this is purple Ethan, and that could explain why he doesn't get as much traction for his Twitch videos. If he did post more regularly, then I think his content wouldn't be shadow banned, I guess you could say, and more people could watch it. So yeah, and the next point I do want to bring up is, like I mentioned, I do want to eventually live on my own. Obviously, this won't happen anytime soon because I still need to learn to do a lot of things on my own, and I need to save up a decent amount of money. But like I said, I would love to eventually get my own place. I think an apartment would probably be better for me than a home, or an actual home, because that way it's more affordable. And because I heard home ownership can be a nightmare. You have a lot more responsibilities when you actually own a home. Plus, it is more expensive. So I'm thinking of, if I eventually can live on my own, I do believe an apartment would work better for me. Because I do want more freedom. Plus, I do have certain incompatibilities with my family members. So living on my own would prevent such conflict. I still want to go out and see my family members for certain occasions, or or even just for going to lunch together. But I do think living on my own, it's definitely a good thing to consider. One of the reasons is because I am a night owl and my dad is an early bird, so we do have conflicting schedules in that regard. He likes to do things in the morning. I actually like doing things in the evening or even nighttime, and I'll get to do that. Unfortunately, I probably won't ever learn how to drive because I'm really scared of learning how to drive. And I have a poor sense of direction. I struggle focusing on multiple things at the same time. So I still need to look into transportation alternatives, but yeah. And then also, my dad plans to retire in the next 5 or 10 years. And another reason why I want to live on my own is because I think he'll want to take more vacations as well. And I want to get out of them. Because I don't mind casual vacations. Like, we're going to go to New Mexico in about 2.5 weeks. I'm fine with really casual vacations, but my dad wants to go, like, I live in West Texas, But my dad wants to go to California. He wants to go to Virginia. He wants to go on really far away vacations. He even has discussed wanting to go on international vacations. So, yeah, I want to avoid that, and I think it'll be easier if I do live on my own. Plus, my dad wants to get a dog, and I've talked about it before, but I do not want dogs in my living space. I'm fine with people who have dogs as long as they are responsible and they consider different factors before getting one, but having certain dogs in my living space is extremely uncomfortable for me. Now, I would probably be fine with a low maintenance dog that isn't invasive and isn't in the way all the time, but a lot of dogs are very high maintenance and clingy and energetic, or invasive. They get in the way, and that's why I sometimes struggle to coexist, I guess, with a dog in my living space. And I would also love to meet my online friends, Ashton, Green Ethan, Purple Ethan, Eli. I would love to eventually meet them. Heck, I even wouldn't mind going on vacations with them. I feel like it would be a lot more fun than family vacations, to be honest. Because, I do feel like my friends understand me more than my family does. It's sad, but my friend, I don't know if Green Ethan is. I know he's suspected to have an ADHD, but, he's not diagnosed with it, so he's not sure. But I know Eli, Ashton, Purple Ethan, and possibly Green Ethan, they are all neurodivergent. And Green Ethan even admitted in the past to being more comfortable with neurodivergent friends. And I get it, I do struggle sometimes to get along with neurotypical people because of their expectations. And because not all of them, but a lot of them do tend to disregard boundaries. My friends, on the other hand, they're a lot more respectful of my boundaries and even relate to them themselves. So even if we were to go on a further vacation, they're a lot more open to flying. My dad just wants to drive for hours on end. Frick that. So, yeah. If I ever did want to go on a vacation that's further away, I would want to fly over there. Plus, me and Ashton, if we ever did meet and go on a vacation together, we agree that having our own room would definitely be very important. That's a boundary my family has never really considered for me. You kind of just have to be cooped up in a hotel room together. Not good. At least we usually get 2 rooms when we're going with our mom to visit Corpus. But I do wish you would have more activities and stuff to do. Plus, even if it's just me and my mom in the same room, we still have trouble sleeping. It's just a mess. You know, it can be hard to sleep in unfamiliar environments to begin with, but it's even harder when you're sharing a room with someone, let alone a bed. But yeah, you know, this is a topic I'm very passionate about. I love the thought of working towards an ideal future for myself, and also for my friends to have their ideal future. I know my friends Ashton and Eli, they want to eventually move in together. They're not sure where, but I think they did consider Minnesota as one of their options. And then I hope my friend Purple Ethan, he gets a job under the aviation umbrella, and then he builds up an audience while live streaming. I want Green Ethan to eventually become a screenwriter and make his own shows. Heck, I could even watch those shows. I know Ashton and Eli, they want to make a role-playing video game together and possibly even a web series. Because they both have their own OCs, but they decided to combine their worlds into one universe. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, and as for my brother, I definitely want him to get a good job at some point, because, and I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, I'm looking to get structure in my life too, but you know, structure will be very good for him as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Like I said, I'm looking forward to publishing my books. I'm looking forward to getting into my programs. I can't wait to get a bank account so I can save money and make money. Yeah. And then, like I said, I'll eventually get my own place, hopefully later on down the road. Because I'm not in a rush to, but it is something I definitely want to consider down the road. The first thing that I probably will, I mean, I've already started working towards my books, but I just can't publish anything yet. But one of the first things I probably will achieve is probably the program. Because so hopefully I should get in by the end of this year, or at the latest, the beginning of next year. And I'll probably still be working, me and my dad will still probably be working on my Social Security stuff. So yeah, the program will probably be the first thing I do achieve. Anyway, yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.